Guys, I gotta tell you, I am in a great mood today because race hustler number 2 at MSNBC, Tiffany Cross, has been fired. If you guys haven't seen my video on it, I suggest that you watch it. I haven't had that much excitement in a long time, okay? It just feels good to pick up a W. And yeah, that was a personal one for me. However, there's still work to be done, okay? As race hustler number 1 at MSNBC, Joy Reid still has her job, despite the fact that allegedly, she's on the chopping block as well. I think Tiffany Cross being fired is a good indication that Joy Reid is probably next to go out the door. Her ratings don't justify the racist rhetoric that she frequently spews on her show. She's not quite as bad as Tiffany Cross, but she is up there. And also on top of that, I don't really think that she knows anything about politics. I don't think she's that smart. I don't think she's that talented. I really do think that she should be replaced. And takes like this, which we're going to talk about here from Joy Reid, is exactly why she's probably next to go. As Democrats in the mainstream liberal media, they believe that the voters are dumb, okay? And Joy Reid is going to give us a prime example of that, as she says that voters only know about inflation. They only know the word inflation. They only know anything about inflation because it was taught to them by the GOP. Seriously, that is what she said. Take a look.
Joy, I'm curious how, what's notable to me is that Republicans say they're running on inflation and crime. Republicans have not presented any solutions to their voters on either of those topics, and that state's run by a Republican. So how are those issues playing out there?
You know what's so interesting, too, is that I have actually never heard a person who isn't an economist or works on CNBC. I used to do CNBC a lot as a guest. I actually used to do Larry Kudlow's show all the time, a couple times a week. And the only people I ever hear use the word inflation are journalists and economists, right? So that is not part of the normal lexicon of the way people talk. So it's interesting that Republicans are doing something they don't normally do, right? Which is not use the common tongue, right? Not use just common English to sort of do on their campaigns like they're doing with crime. But what they've done is they've taught people the word inflation, right? Yeah. Most people who would have never used that word ever in their lives are using it now because they've been taught it, including on TV, including in newspapers. They've been taught this word, and they sort of wrap this word around whatever it is that they really want to vote, the reasons they really want to vote.
Yeah, I told you guys that they really do think that you're dumb, okay? I say that all the time on my channel, but I mean that. It is very obvious. These people, the Democrats, the mainstream, they think that you are stupid, that you cannot understand concepts like inflation is not a part of your vocabulary. Only journalists and businessmen, economists, they're the only people that use the term inflation. Right? I don't know what to say. Right? I think everybody should have learned about inflation when they were in school. Right? Everybody knows what it is. Everybody knows what inflation is. This idea that people only know about it kind of alludes to the idea that it doesn't really exist. The only reason that people feel like they're hurting, that their money is worth less, is only because the GOP told them that, right? The GOP told you that, therefore you believe it. Again, it's an insult on our intelligence. You don't need to be an economist or a journalist or a businessman to know that the cost of groceries, the cost of gas, the cost of food, the cost of everything, right, is going up. You don't need to be an economist to know that. And people weren't talking about inflation much before the Democrats got in because inflation wasn't happening, right? It was at like, what, 2%? Okay, that's like, the goal, 2% per year. So yeah, we didn't have an inflation problem before the Democrats. And when the Democrats got in office, all of a sudden we had an inflation problem. So I'm just saying, I think people know about it because we're experiencing inflation more so than the GOP teaching them about the word inflation. Again, Joy Reid is such a buffoon, right? She's such an idiot, okay? I don't know if that was scripted or what, right? I'm not sure if she was reading off of the teleprompter there, but whoever wrote that and then looked over that and said, yeah, this sounds like an intelligent thing to say, they should be fired. Right. Since they fired people at MSNBC, whoever gave Joy Reid to go to say something like that on camera, to insult people like that and their intelligence, there's some issues, right? There's a whole lot of issues. No wonder people don't watch that show. And what's hilarious about this, guys, is that Fox News asked voters about Joy Reid's comments, and they actually started roasting her for the comments that she made, claiming that the only reason they know about inflation is because the GOP taught them the word. And take a look.
It's ridiculous what we're going through at the moment.
It's interesting you bring up the economy and inflation. I see people pointing and nodding along. I want actually, on that note, can I play something for you guys? I'd love to get your reaction. This is Joy Reid. She's a host on MSNBC talking about the concept of inflation. Let's watch together.
So it's interesting that Republicans are doing something they don't normally do, right? Which is not use the common tongue, right? Not use just common English to sort of do on their campaigns like they're doing with crime. But what they've done is they've taught people the word inflation, right? Yeah. Most people who would have never used that word ever in their lives are using it now because they've been taught it, including on TV, including in newspapers. They've been taught this word.
Margaret, I saw you scoff during that.
I mean, it's just absurd that people don't understand what the word inflation is. I mean, we're all adults.
We're living it. We're feeling it everywhere.
It's ridiculous that
our customers are feeling
that we're
it.
being told that we're taught this or fed this through the media, as though we don't, aren't intelligent individual people that understand what's happening around us and what's happening in our pocketbooks.
And she's a Democrat.
Yeah.
And by the way, you were a Democrat. You also raised your hand. You're going to vote Republican in this election?
Yes, I already did. I voted all Republican except for one Democrat.
American voters are not stupid people.
Right.
And when you, from the White House to these talk shows, we're told we don't understand what's going on. We're living it every day. These people in their ivory towers they're the ones with no concept, and they think we're stupid and they're trying to snow us. And then they read polls, and suddenly you hear like a Kathy Hochul suddenly changing her tune on crime. Why?
Right.
Because the polling was bad for her position.
Really quickly, last word to you, Beth. You're the only one that didn't talk. I gave Josh twice. Here's what everyone should know. These two were going at it during the commercial break on election day. Beth and Josh going at it. So I'm going to give you last word here at the end of the segment.
Okay, and when you had just said to anybody who's watching that Josh and I were going at it during the break.
In a friendly manner, I should say.
And that's really what's happening and what's wrong with our country. I'm conservative. I was never Democrat. I'm in, I won't say how old I am, but I've always been conservative, and you're a liberal, and we're able to have a conversation, and that's what has to happen, because I think that when we come to the table, we have real conversations, we agree on a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that is what the average voter is probably thinking when they hear Joy Reid and the mainstream liberal media insult their intelligence, saying things like the voters only know about inflation, or they only understand inflation, or they're only using the word inflation because they were taught that by the GOP. Again, at what point is Joy Reid going to give one of these silly takes, right? You guys remember when she said, Texas is only opening back up because white people need black people to cook their steaks, right? You guys remember that?
No, absolutely. I'm sure the doctors are exhausted. And, Jason, there is a term called necropolitics, which is essentially the politics of who gets to live and who gets to die. And these states, what they have in common is that they have structures which say that black and brown lives matter less. And so all that matters is that the black and brown people get their behinds into the factory and make me my steaks, make me my stuff, get there and do my nails, work, get back to work now and do the things that I, the comfortable, affluent person, need. Isn't that what we're seeing? I mean, that's what it feels like to me. Necropolitics in states like Texas.
Oh, yeah. The Hunger Games would be more humane, right? If they made people line up and fight for vaccines, at least then you have a fighting chance. No, they're just going to starve people. And it's always seemed ironic to me that the party of supposedly family values is basically saying, you kids starve, auntie starves, uncle starves, and my wife and my smart son get to eat and get to live and get the vaccine. That is essentially what's happening here. And here's the problem. It used to just be an issue of harming black and brown people. But this is harming what's left of the Republican base. Mississippi's a red state. They're killing a lot of their own supporters. Yeah. Texas is a red state. Even though it's through suppression, they're killing a lot of their own supporters. So it's not even political. It's just nihilism and an absolute lack of empathy for the human impact and the catastrophe that so many Americans are living through right now.
Yeah, so fast forward more than a year later, all that turned out to be hogwash, right? The Republican Party, if you look at the numbers in regards to what's going to happen in the midterms, they didn't kill their voter base by opening up. I'm pretty sure there are more than just black people that cook steaks, okay, that do people's nails, that have actual jobs, right? None of the things that they fear-mongered about a year ago happened, right? None of the things happened. So again, I'm just saying, at what point is Joy Reid going to say one of these stupid takes, right, that she says almost on a daily basis, and MSNBC is going to decide to give her the axe, right? The same way they did with Tiffany Cross, whom, by the way, on this Tiffany Cross thing, I just got to say, I believe that Tucker Carlson probably caught wind of the fact that MSNBC and Tiffany Cross weren't on the same page, that essentially she was on the chopping block. And I think that Tucker, right, out of spite, might have just ran that segment comparing Tiffany Cross's rhetoric to the rhetoric that was being spewed before the Rwandan genocide. I think that he did that as a way to basically try to pressure MSNBC to fire Tiffany Cross. And maybe the comment she made about Florida was the last straw. I'm just saying, regardless, Joy Reid is just as bad. Her takes are just as stupid. She's just as big as a race baiter. And her day, right? Her day of reckoning at MSNBC, I think, is coming sooner rather than later, especially if she keeps saying stupid stuff like this. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.